You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. And it's Tennessee, Alabama hate week. So I've got my pick for the game tomorrow, though you know which way I'm already leaning. I tip my hand about Wednesday. I'm not really good at concealing these things for the entirety of the week. Also, I have a take. It may qualify as a hot take. Why is Alabama like Donald Trump? Trump fans don't go anywhere. I'm not insulting you. Bama fans don't go anywhere. I'm not insulting you. This is not an insult, though I have dragged politics into the show before. I have not done so recently, and do you know why? Because it really hasn't been fun. This whole election campaign got way, way messier than I thought. And the only bright spot in the whole thing, apparently, is Ken Bone. And I don't know why it is that he just got so big on the internet for, I mean, he does look like, he does look like a person who would just make you laugh for no reason. Like you just see him and you start laughing. And then his personality just kind of layers everything on top of that. So I guess that's why. But whatever. Alabama, Donald Trump have some similarities. They're not what you think. You might want to stick around and listen to that. And of course, I'm going to pull back the window on my own personal sports life, my life as a Washington sports fan. The Nationals lose to the Dodgers in Game 5 of their series. Dodgers advance to play the Cubbies in the NLDS. So we'll get into all of that. Plus a few more SEC talks. And then some baseball talk. Haven't really had the baseball talk been big on the show so far just because we've had so much football to get into and I've got a time limit. So we just kind of have to work our ways around it. Didn't get to talk very much about the Thursday night football game yesterday, the preview of it, the Broncos and the Chargers. The Chargers are able to beat the Broncos after the Falcons beat the Broncos last week. And so now, have the Falcons been a team that has laid down the blueprint on how you beat the Denver Broncos? Albeit a Paxton Lynch-led Denver Broncos team. Who knows? We'll talk about it. But first, let me talk to you about where you can find us, the platforms. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I recommend those places because it's 2016. I shouldn't have to tell you by now. Those are the best places for the best information on the net. Hot News Talk Radio is obviously there. YouTube, you can stream all of our local programming. This show, the David Tulis Show, Binary with Russell Stroud and America's Morning News. You can also check us out on our Facebook page where we stream all of our shows from there. The only radio station in Chattanooga, to my knowledge, doing that particular thing with our radio plugin. And Noogaradio.com, where we stream all of our programming 24/7, 365. This includes all the shows I previously mentioned, as well as the Sean Hannity Show, The Herd with Colin Cowherd, Coast to Coast, and so much more. And if you're on the go and you want to listen mobily, that's fine. Just check out the TuneIn Radio app, which is free in whatever app store you like to use. Give Hot News Talk Radio a favorite and press play. You'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. That's Hot News Talk Radio in the TuneIn Radio app. Listen like you mean it. Tennessee and Alabama play this weekend. And I always wondered why it is that Tennessee and Alabama is such a big rivalry. Right? Because Tennessee and Alabama have one of the longest standing rivalries in the history of college football. I believe the fourth longest standing rivalry. They have played every single year, barring the first year of World War II, since 1928. Since 1928, continuously. It's the fourth longest continuous streak of games ever played. With the very first time Tennessee and Alabama played, football was quite literally a different sport. Okay, so that I always wondered why it was such a big rivalry, because I understand that it's deep in its history, but in terms of record, it's fairly lopsided. And by fairly lopsided, I mean it's pretty lopsided. Alabama holds in the whole series a 52, 38, and 7 lead. 52 wins for Alabama, 38 losses, 7 ties. Right? 52, 38, and 7. This is pretty lopsided. Like, Tennessee would have to continuously be winning for like the next decade and a half to really catch up in this thing. And it could happen. I mean, not while Nick Saban's there, of course, but it could happen eventually down the road, right? But it's such a lopsided series. And I always wondered what makes this rivalry so great. It's not like every time you come out, you just expect Tennessee to really have a chance, especially during the ups and downs of Tennessee's existence in the past 15 years. Tennessee has caught a lot of L's in this series. But there is a reason. And that is because Alabama is like Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump has been in the news media lately because of all of the scandals that he's been involved in the past, the Access Hollywood video that got leaked and everything else. And I'm not going to sit here and try and talk to you about Donald Trump or to laugh at Donald Trump, which I previously have done on this show because I find his existence to be humorous. And like a hipster, I thought Donald Trump's existence was humorous before he was running for president. Before it was cool to laugh at Donald Trump, I thought that was hilarious. Just FYI. But here's the thing about Donald Trump. He is arrogant. I mean, arrogant, cocky, out. And it's the kind of New York arrogant and cocky that people like to see fall. Like, it feels good when that kind of thing tips over. And that's why, if you look at the SEC, Tennessee and Alabama is a big rivalry, but a lot of people consider themselves to be Alabama's rival. Why do you think that is? They're not all playing the same continuous series against Alabama. And certainly, a lot of Alabama's series with many other teams have been more uncompetitive than Tennessee and Alabama. Right? And Tennessee has had some heartbreaks against Alabama, too, which we don't even have to get into all of that because my point is not to try and rub salt in the wounds. My point is to say that the thing about Alabama and the reason why people like rooting against them is the same reason why everyone's piling in on Donald Trump. I understand that there is a contingency of people who believes that Donald Trump is being attacked by the media because the media is left-leaning and they don't want him to be president and they hate the Republicans and they don't want a Republican in there and they specifically don't want that Republican to be Donald Trump. I understand all of those theories. You want to know what I think about why it is that Donald Trump is being piled on by everyone? It's fun to watch him lose. He is not a good loser at all. Donald Trump's not a good loser. And we haven't seen Alabama lose very much in recent memory. So you can imagine, because fans do have a tendency to get very, very spoiled. You can imagine, right, what it is when Donald Trump loses. Imagine millions of people dressed in crimson, a big old A on their ball cap after a loss. People haven't seen a loss, a serious, scary loss in a really long time. And if you lose to Tennessee as an Alabama fan this Saturday, which you can listen to on Hot News Talk Radio right here when the game comes on, we've got Alabama, Tennessee, giving you more football than anybody in the greater Chattanooga area on any given weekend. You are an Alabama fan and your team loses to Tennessee. You should be very, very concerned. This Tennessee team is not designed to beat you. It's a very good football team. It's not designed to beat you. It might be one of the best teams that you see all year. We'll see. We'll see what LSU team shows up in Death Valley. We'll see what Auburn shows up in the Iron Bowl. But this might be it for difficult games for Alabama this season. truly and honestly. And what we have is a group of people in Alabama fans have not had to lose recently in a way that is truly terrifying and truly heartbreaking. And that's Tennessee's tendency in the way they beat people, is in a heartbreaking fashion. If you lose to Tennessee and you lose to Tennessee like that, you should be concerned. You should be very, very, very concerned. And they're not used to it. If you want to know what it's like to have a bunch of people not used to losing, you can see it on Donald Trump's face. He's not used to losing. Donald Trump has been catching L's. You hear him when he defends himself, when he talks to the media. He sounds, I mean, he doesn't sound like a person who's in control of the situation. Okay, and I'm not saying that Alabama as a team is going to panic. I'm not saying that Alabama as an organization or that Nick Saban is going to panic. But that whole fan base is going to feel some kind of panic if Tennessee were to beat Alabama, and that's because Alabama has no idea how to lose, not unlike our good old friend Donald Trump. I mean, the similarities are very, very, very much there. That's why we like to root against Alabama. Alabama fans are not particularly kind to people who are not Alabama fans. I talk to Alabama fans in this town. I have friends who are Alabama fans. And of all the fan bases I have ever interacted with in sports, not just college football, in sports, Alabama fans are right up there with New York Yankees fans and Lakers fans in terms of your ability to talk to and or reason with them in a manner that makes any sense, especially when they're good. You can kind of reason with Lakers fans when the Lakers stink, like they do now. You can kind of reason with them. You still can't really reason with them because they've got all the championships behind them that they like to point back at. Just living in the past that way. You can kind of reason with them. I mean, when the Yankees are bad, Yankees fans just like to talk about baseball all the time. So, I mean, you can kind of reason with that person too. I don't know that there's a situation where you can truly, honestly, over the last 10 years or so, really honestly reason with an Alabama fan. And I'm not calling names at anybody or anything. I'm just saying you guys are so used to winning and you're so pampered by your winning and you're so spoiled by your winning. I mean, you forgot what it was like to be like the rest of us. You realize that if we have a 10-win season, that's a good thing. That's good. If you settle for 10-win seasons, that's good. The Alabama has gone and just changed up the whole game. The whole game. The consistency that they continue to win at year in and year out, especially under Nick Saban. That level of consistency, you all cannot be satisfied by mere 10-win seasons. That's happiness. I am a Texas Longhorn fan. 10 wins is already out of the question this year. I'm just hoping to be bowl eligible. I'm like, if we can somehow get 6, I'll settle for 7 wins. I'll settle for 7. I believe that's what it takes. 6 wins or so for bowl eligibility. I will settle for that. Alabama fan is looking down at his ivory Alabama tower, his ivory and crimson tower, talking about 10 wins. That's not so great. You realize that Alabama is the reason why Mark Richt got fired from Georgia, right? Georgia was going out there and collecting 10 wins a year, basically annually. You could bank on their 10 victories. Not good enough. Not good enough. You look across and see Alabama and all that they're going through and all that they're winning. And you're like, oh, they're holding that wonderful glass football, the national championship, or as I like to call it, the natty. I want one of those. I want one. I'm going to fire my 10-win-a-year coach. Alabama fan could not imagine a situation where he has 10 wins and is completely satisfied. And I'm looking down at the schedule for this season, and I can see why he's completely justified in thinking that. I mean, you look at a guy like Donald Trump, and all of his victories up until this point are in his name. I mean, Donald Trump's name makes nothing stick to him. You can ridicule him, you can accuse him, you can call him out on actual things that he has said. They bounce right off. It does not stick in any way whatsoever. The man is Teflon. Nothing sticks to him ever. And those victories, when he finally started losing, when there was finally a scandal that came out for Donald Trump that stuck, which is impressive, seeing as how there felt like there was a scandal for Donald Trump every single day and not one stuck until very recently. Until there was one that just came out and stuck. That was when he started showing like, okay, maybe I can't handle losing. I mean, Alabama fans going to look exactly like that. And Tennessee's got its chances. Like I said, this is not a team that's designed to beat Bama. It's a very good football team, but they're not designed to beat Bama. But they have some weapons, right? Like they just discovered last week, oh yeah, this Alvin Kamara guy, he could really carry some stuff. 151 yards for Alvin Kamara last week. Just get that guy in the offense. And also, by the way, Alvin Kamara started his career at Alabama. Little bit extra fire there for Mr. Alvin Kamara. Feed that guy the rock. And you know you got Jalen Hurd returning. I say still try and feature this offense with Alvin Kamara. It was so effective last week. And also, Alabama's linebackers, really fast guys. Try and use the speed of Kamara to set them up before you try and run through them with Hurd. Because this team's quick. But you've got your chances there. I think that you've got a legitimate option there. You've also got a team that is winning despite turnovers, which might not seem like a positive at first, right? Like Tennessee has got 16 turnovers this season. There isn't another team that with Tennessee's record with that many turnovers. Tennessee is ranked only ahead in turnovers in the nation of 128 teams. They're ranked 124th, ahead of Bowling Green. The teams they're ranked ahead of are a combined 5-12 this season. Somehow Tennessee is 5-1, despite being 124th in the nation in turnovers. What Tennessee has to do, and I'm not saying this is going to be simple by any means. I have to give Texas A&M's defense last week credit for forcing those turnovers, and I imagine that Alabama's defense, as opportunistic as it is, and how able they are to score on turnovers that they create, 10 touchdowns so far this season. How Tennessee, if they're going to have to cut down on these turnovers, it's not going to be easy, right? Like Alabama's ready to go. But if they can, you're not just looking at a good football team anymore. You're looking at a great football team. One of the things that holds Tennessee back, the turnovers. And I understand that there's a certain level of Josh Dobbs going to Dobbs that you just have to expect. Like, if you want that guy to play well, you're going to have to let him take the risks that cause him to throw 1 or 2 interceptions a game. I don't think there's anything you can do about that. But securing the football, the 5 fumbles that you had last week, not acceptable, can't happen this week or you're not going to win this football game. And Butch Jones obviously addressed that earlier in the week. But if Tennessee could cut down on those turnovers, carry the rock with confidence, get into field goal range. Aaron Medley, 7 of 7. Take your 3 points when you can take your 3 points. Don't shoot yourself in the foot when you're 30 yards away. When you got a chance to look at a 30-yarder, don't turn it over then. Make sure you get Medley those opportunities. The guy is right as rain. And you're looking at a Tennessee team with more than a puncher's chance. But again, they have to do all of these things. And I'm not sure we can get all of these things squared away in time to truly and honestly face up to Alabama and deliver that knockout punch. Because like I said, this is not going to be a game. This is not going to be a shootout, right? Like Tennessee is designed to win shootouts. You don't win shootouts against this Alabama football team because, again, Alabama can run the football, which means they get a lead, they start running until the game is over, which is why when they got that lead on Arkansas, the Razorbacks didn't stand a chance. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Why does it stink to be a Washington fan? I think you already know the answer. Next.
Hot News Talk 1240 AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your chance to win $124 in cash and $124 in food every week with the Hot News Talk Radio 1, 2, 3 NASCAR contest. Hot News Talk 1240. All you have to do is guess who's going to be first, second, and third place in the upcoming NASCAR Sprint Cup race. If you guess it, you'll hear your name live Monday morning at 11:30. Then call AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio to win. Enter your guess right now at Rick Davis Golden Diamonds, 5301 Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. Diesel Off-Road Technology Saudi Daisy for your four-wheel drive and truck needs. Stuff and upholstery with premium rubber foam. Amigos Mexican Restaurant next to Staples and Hickson. Drink specials during the race. Cell Surgeon, the Broken Screen Doc. And Shooter's Supply, 4824 Hickson Pike in Hickson. Hot News Talk 1240. Enter your guesses now and listen to the race live to win $124 in cash and $124 in food from Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station. Hot News Talk 1240. I love NASCAR. Cash, 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 and more cash. Rick Davis has the cash when you sell gold, silver, diamonds, rings, and jewelry. Sell Rick your precious metals today and lock in your price. Hey, Rick Davis will trade your cash for shiny, brilliant, and heavy gold. Gold cheaper now by $100 an ounce. Join the Rick Davis Silver Bonanza too. Prices so low, the Lone Ranger is bound to gallop in, Kimosabi. Hey-ho, silver, away! The markets are changing, so buy now. Cash, 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 and more cash for your silver and gold, gold, gold. Rick Davis, 5301 Brainerd Road. That's 5301 Brainerd Road. Rick Davis Golden Diamonds. Oh, and cash, cash, cash. You know where it is. Hey-ho, silver, away! You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank. Call now to get access to nearly 400 local businesses. Trade Bank. Call 877-2202. 877-2202. Trade Bank. You want to increase your cash flow, your competitive edge, attract new customers, and build a loyal customer base. You need Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call right now. 877-2202. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want with our wide variety of Trade Bank partners. For almost 30 years, Trade Bank has been your voice for small business, a member of the American Bankers Association, and in good standing with you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation, 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
Expect some passing clouds, but still dry and warm out there. High temperatures of around 80 tonight. A few more clouds, overnight lows much milder, 60 to 62. Check out JCPenney and get an extra 20% off select items with your JCPenney credit card and coupon, or 15% with any other form of payment. That's getting your pennies worth at JCPenney. And I'm Sorgene 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. A home invasion is something that most gun owners train for but never expect to actually happen to them. But when Charles Sledge from Sunrise Drive heard a noise inside of his house, he pulled a gun and went in. Ryan Megan Francis was sitting at his kitchen table. According to his testimony, Mr. Sledge held a gun on her until police arrived. The woman said that she thought the house was abandoned, and she said she had been chased into it by another woman. She's now in jail, charged with aggravated burglary. Trouble at the Cancun's on Market Street when a man apparently a gas pump and began beating it with a tire iron. He beat several others as well, according to the manager of that store. He then picked up a gas canister, poured gasoline in front of a dumpster, lit it on fire, and sped away in his Jeep. He's been arrested and charged with setting fire to personal property and vandalism. 35-year-old Thomas Williams was sitting in his parked car when he was shot in the face by an unknown assailant. He apparently drove himself to a nearby fire station where he was then taken to a hospital by EMS. Police are still trying to find 2 suspects on the loose. It was going on in the Tennessee Valley. It's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott Powers around the outside. Michael McDowell pops the right front tire. Here's Martin Truex to the bottom. Blaney blocks him off too. Meanwhile, Chase Elliott went 4 wide on the back straightaway. They're side by side for the lead.
Here at Live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station. Hot News Talk 1240. The voice of NASCAR.
So the Tebow saga continues. Granted that this time I'm bringing it up. You know, all the previous times, the news stories come up, they rise to the top. Got to read them. And Tim Tebow is one of the greatest quarterbacks that's ever played in the SEC. So I really got to talk about him. He's so newsworthy, it hurts. Like we talked when I was in college, good old J school, journalism school, right? About newsworthiness. What topics are newsworthy? Stuff that's local is newsworthy. Stuff that has proximity to you. Stuff that's happened recently. That's another thing about newsworthiness. Prominence. How important are the people, the places involved? Yeah, basically all of these things apply to Tim Tebow. Played in the SEC, was great, still pretty famous, had an infamous NFL run. I would say very controversial NFL run. A lot of people feel like Tim Tebow got ran out of the league because of his faith, which I find odd only because Tim Tebow, it's not like Tim Tebow's the only openly practicing Christian that ever played football. I mean, there are guys that lead prayers in their locker rooms. I mean, Tim Tebow was in college known for wearing the Bible verse eye black. It wasn't an issue in college, and maybe I just was in the football bubble too deeply, but I don't recall there being quite the backlash that everyone remembers. That yes, Tim Tebowing was a thing. Like when he kneeled to pray, people started having fun with that. But that was mostly because of how consistently Tim Tebow did it, and there was an exaggerated motion to Tim Tebow's kneeling that resulted in the phrase Tebowing. And I don't know that people were making fun of that because of his faith necessarily, but just because, like planking, the internet took it and it became a thing. Right? You don't get to choose what becomes a thing. Suddenly, Ken Bone asks one question at the second debate, and he's a thing. He goes from 7 followers to however many he's got now, right? So it's not about necessarily what it is that people think happened. It's just the internet takes stuff, and that's what it is. So Tim Tebow decided to play baseball, which my good friend Chris Goforth, who came on the show, has called the most Kardashian thing that Tim Tebow has ever done, and that maybe Tim Tebow has a little bit of Kardashian inside of his soul, which is hard to debate when you consider every decision that he's made in this baseball thing. Now, Tim Tebow suddenly decided to start playing baseball a decade and a year removed from playing baseball. That's already head-scratching. He wanted to get an athletic line playing baseball, meets the requirements of Tim Tebow being athletic enough and famous enough and getting his name back out there enough that if Tim Tebow wanted to start selling athletic clothes, shoes, shirts, and everything else, I think he could suddenly do that. Tim Tebow's other decision, which is that the Atlanta Braves, their farm team would have been perfect for Tim Tebow. He'd be close to his fan base, his most rabid fan base, which is still around Florida. Tim Tebow goes to play for the Mets. So this whole thing seems to be either attention-seeking or money-seeking. I'm going to go with money-seeking because money is pretty cool if you have it. And if you can get more of it, most people try and get more of it, typically. Tim Tebow is already pretty well compensated for what he does at ESPN. He is a very good broadcaster on the SEC game day shows and the SEC network. I would be, if I'm Tim Tebow, I'd be happy with just that. But Tim Tebow is going to be playing baseball. And Tim Tebow gets sent to the Arizona Fall League by the Mets organization, which, you know, the decision to go to New York, more eyeballs, more spotlight, ergo, more money. But some people have disagreed with Tim Tebow's existence in baseball, as you figured they might. The baseball is not something that is easy to do. Men play baseball their entire lives in the minor leagues, chasing the dream of playing baseball. Their entire careers spent in the minor leagues. You never get that chance to necessarily come up. It's a hard sport to play. The guys that you see in Major League Baseball, they're the best of the best. And Tim Tebow hasn't played baseball in 11 years and decided, I'm going to play baseball again. Kind of insulting to the rest of baseball. Just a little bit. And ESPN baseball writer Keith Law, he agrees. I mean, I think it's kind of insulting to the rest of baseball, but honestly, the insult is not coming from Tim Tebow. Because it wouldn't be insulting to baseball if I decided, you know what? I'm going to try and be a major leaguer. I would just never make it. The insult's not coming from Tim Tebow. If you want to decide to play baseball today, you're not insulting the sport. What's insulting to the sport is the owners and the managers that would like money, and Tim Tebow sells tickets. So some poor guy who's been working his entire life to get his shot in the Arizona Fall League, which, by the way, is more important if you're actually looking for scouts to look at you. His spot got taken by Tim Tebow. That guy's spot got taken by Tim Tebow. And if you're a pitcher pitching against Tim Tebow, this doesn't get to be your best tape. This isn't your best stuff. You're now kind of wasting your pitches pitching against a guy who's not qualified to be there. And Tim Tebow's got pieces of being a baseball player. He's got the size. He's got the arm strength. He's got the general strength, like hitting power. I would think that he is quick enough. But ESPN baseball writer Keith Law, who evaluates players for a living, this is what this man's job is. He just watches baseball players and evaluates them. That's the only thing he does. He is a specialist. This is all he does. His opinion is better than mine. I would think that Tim Tebow would be good enough to at least hang around. Keith Law disagrees. This is what he said in his write-up of Tim Tebow's skill set. Tebow, the baseball player, is not a baseball player. He's a washed-up quarterback who has size and nothing else. His swing is long, and he wields the bat like someone who hasn't played the sport in more than a decade, which, of course, he hasn't. He can't catch up to 90 miles per hour, which is well below the major league average for a fastball. He was cutting through fastballs in the zone on Wednesday night. He rolled over twice on fastballs, which is something you generally see professional hitters do only on off-speed stuff. And he showed below average running speed. In the left field, his routes look like those of a wide receiver, although he managed to eventually make his way around to a fly ball in left. So basically, this man took apart Tim Tebow's entire game. It's like if you said, no, that guy's a great quarterback. You should totally recruit this guy to play for Tennessee. This guy's a fantastic quarterback, except, he's kind of slow. He doesn't really go through progressions very well. His arm strength is fairly weak, and he has no mobility. So basically, he's not a quarterback. That's the equivalent of what we've got here with Tim Tebow playing baseball. He is a baseball player who is a baseball player in the name of him being a baseball player. he is not a baseball player in actuality. Because all of the things that baseball players are expected and asked to do, Tim Tebow cannot do. And there is some part of me that just sees that as fundamentally unfair. If Tim Tebow really is taking up somebody's spot that could be evaluated by scouts, that could chase that lifelong dream of being in Major League Baseball, that you are not losing to a guy who is worse at playing baseball than you. You're losing to a guy who is simply more famous than you. And I understand, look, this is how life works. Sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. I've learned that trying to work my way through this business. It's been hard. You start to learn all of the people that you need to know. You lose to a lot of people who know more people than you, who have more connections than you. Because if you're a radio host, if you're a broadcaster, you ought to think that nobody's better than you. You ought to think that you're the best. You ought to think that. And then you ought to go out there and work like that. But if you don't have the connections, you could actually be the best. Wouldn't matter. That's life. That's every job ever. If you don't know what everybody else knows, you lose. Tim Tebow, by virtue of being a famous SEC quarterback, knows all the right people, so he doesn't lose. He's in there. But I can't tell you that it doesn't make me feel in a kind of way about it, because that seems so fundamentally unfair. And I'm not here to hammer Tim Tebow for trying or Tim Tebow for being famous. He cannot help either of those things. What was he supposed to stink at Florida while he played there? And he can't make his fame go away. I suppose he could actually just disappear, but I mean, he doesn't have to do that either. But all of the people out there that look at Tim Tebow and see a cash cow, see a meal ticket, see free money, all of those people should at least be somewhat ashamed of themselves, especially those in upper management of baseball, because those people already have money. If you're Tim Tebow's teammate and you're trying to cash in on Tim Tebow being your teammate, look, man, minor league baseball players make like $18,000 to $20,000 a year. A year. You go ahead and cash in if you've got to. Got no problem with you. But if you are someone already making millions and you're making the decision to put Tim Tebow in over a guy who has worked his entire life for that spot, I can see how, if you are Tim Tebow's teammate in the locker room, how that could rub you the wrong way, how that could bother you. It would bother me. I worked my butt off to be here. This guy started swinging a year ago. He showed up. He had a workout for some scouts after some intense training for a month. And now he's in Arizona Fall League with me. This has been my life's journey. This has been his year's journey. Yeah, I could see how that could bristle some guys. That could be a locker room problem. Very, very easily. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm going to talk to you about what it means to be a Washington fan, because it's not a great situation. It never has been a great situation. And sure, you could go, oh, but didn't the Redskins win games in the 80s? Well, I'm 26 years old, which means I was born in 1990, which means I was not alive for those Super Bowls. So I don't want to hear any of that. That doesn't mean anything to me. I go back and watch them. It makes me happy to see the colors that I root for winning Super Bowls. But guess what? They're not mine. I didn't witness them in real time. Redskins won a Super Bowl in my lifetime, and I wasn't a Redskins fan yet because I wasn't an American yet. Came over as a kid, as a little baby. So no, I was not a Redskins fan when the Redskins won the only Super Bowl that happened in the span of my life. And the way that they play and the way that the seasons go continually, I almost feel fairly certain that I will be buried. I will be buried without having seen a Washington championship. How do I feel this way, and why do I feel this way? I will tell you after I tell you to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Those are the best places to find us. Search Hot News Talk Radio. We stream all of our local programming online, live on YouTube. And, of course, to check out Noogaradio.com, where you can catch all of our local programming. You can listen to us at work, at your computer, when you're just doing stuff, right? You're just buying something online. You're online shopping. Christmas is right around the corner. Hey, go ahead and turn on Noogaradio.com. Listen to us while you buy, I don't know, whatever it is that you're going to put under the tree, or the star for your tree, or stocking stuffers. Tis what it is, man. So being a Washington fan stinks, right? Last night is the perfect example of it, because we look like it was the most Washington way to lose. And I don't mean Washington Nationals way to lose, because the Nationals really, since they've been back to DC, have been fairly competitive over that stretch. And they've been to the playoffs a few times. And while they've been in the mix, they haven't really gotten the chance to threaten for a title. They haven't been to an NLDS. They haven't been to an NLCS, much less a World Series. So we really haven't seen this team go anywhere in the playoffs. All right. And I say this as a person who has at least some appreciation for Clayton Kershaw getting this playoff series monkey off his back. That guy's my favorite pitcher in baseball. So it was really weird that it was to him and to that team that the Nationals lost. It's the team that I root for. And look, they lost in the most Washington way imaginable. Washington sports in general have a way of losing in such a manner that it is completely heartbreaking for you every single time. There was an article out yesterday that basically asked, is Washington the new Cleveland, right? Because Cleveland has LeBron James, and LeBron James has brought a championship to Cleveland, making Cleveland no longer the Cleveland that we know. Sure, they still have the Browns, but guess what? The Indians are in the playoffs, and LeBron James brought a title to that town, which means everybody that was born before last year that was a Cleveland fan, you got a ring in your life. Okay? I don't care about you guys anymore. That was the city that I rooted for, because you were our sister city in terms of pro sports team failure. And you guys can go bump off now. Okay? We're alone in this. Now it's just us and Philadelphia. It's just us in Philly. And the thing about being a Washington sports fan is this: that their teams lose in the most heartbreaking ways possible. It's not just that they lose. It's that they find a way to rip your still beating heart out of your chest when they do it. And so last night, the Nationals are up 1-0 heading into the seventh. And Dusty Baker is playing that ultimate lose-lose situation where you've got a pitcher, he's pitching well, but he's pitched a while, right? He's pitched around 99, 100 pitches, and you got to start thinking about, maybe we should move this guy. Maybe we should go to the bullpen, pitch somebody else. All right? And so he doesn't. Scherzer says he's good. Scherzer goes in, immediately gives up a hit. Score is now tied 1-1. Dusty Baker pulls Max Scherzer for, I cannot pronounce this man's name, and I will not even try. There's an R followed by a Z followed by a Y. And the moment I saw that, I knew I wasn't going to try and pronounce his name. My point is, all right, that guy proceeds to get lit up for the rest of the inning. They give up 3 runs. Of course, they lose the game 4-3. You could have stopped the bleeding with Scherzer. Why did Dusty Baker pull Max Scherzer? Dusty Baker's explanation was, well, Scherzer said he was good. He gave up the run, so I thought I should switch him out. But if you look at the hit that Scherzer gave up, it was a fastball. It was low to the right. It was 96 miles per hour. So what you're telling me is Max Scherzer threw a pitch that in no way showed decline of any kind. A dinger that is about as fluky as they come, goes out of the yard, and the pitcher that you just had faith in, you suddenly don't have faith in. And of course, you give up 3 more runs and lose by exactly that number. You give up 4 runs in that inning and never recover. That's the most Washington way to lose. Right? You could look at the way the Wizards went down in flames against the Pacers a few years back. I'm a Wizards fan. I watch all the games, okay? I watch them all. I record them. I find some way to watch it. I'm telling you, I find ways to watch the Wizards play basketball. I didn't watch all of the games last year. I think I watched about half of them, which is the lowest number of Wizards games I have ever watched in a season. And of course, they didn't make the playoffs, so I needed to watch all of those games or I was not going to see the team. Like some fans get to tune off the season and go, call me in June. Call me in May when this all gets started. And call me in June when the second round is finally over. I don't get to do that. All right. I'm a Wizards fan. I'm a Caps fan. The Caps continue to win a lot of games. Last year, they were awarded the President's Cup, which is to say they won the most games in the National Hockey League, followed by a first-round exit. That's so Washington. That's the most Washington way that you could lose anything. Be the best team in the regular season, bounced in the first. Washington, only they could do that consistently. Or 2012, when the Redskins basically upset everybody by making it to the playoffs in the first place. Play the Seahawks. Play a good first quarter against the Seahawks in a game that looks like it's going to go their way. RG3 falls awkwardly in the second quarter, continues to play in a game that many argue he should not have been playing in. Mike Shanahan doesn't pull him out, and RG3 and the Redskins season ends with RG3 trying to bend over to pick up a football with his messed up knee and ripping it to shreds. Also one of the worst injuries I've ever seen live. So on top of all of those things, you lose the game that way. And of course, RG3 was never the same. So you didn't just lose the game. You basically lost the next 3 seasons. So a guy that you drafted, that everybody had the buzz around him, like he could be every bit as good as Luck. Yeah, how about that? How did that work out? And I'm not asking for pity. All right, I'm just expressing some of my pain and hurt here after another Washington team fails me yet again. The Redskins are somehow 3-2. I don't know how that happened. They play the Eagles on Sunday at 1 o'clock. And you know what? I don't think they're going to win. It doesn't matter because they're not going to win the division. What Washington sports teach you is a lesson that maybe everybody could learn in life, but that I've learned the hard way. You have 0 expectations about something, and you can still be disappointed. That's right. I mean, people say all the time, the point is to go in. The goal is to go in with low expectations. The goal is not to go in with low expectations because you can still be disappointed regardless of how low your expectations are. That's Washington sports life, and I'll jump off of that soapbox quickly because we're coming up to the end of the show. This is Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Make sure to tune in at kickoff 3:30 for Tennessee, Alabama. We have it. All right. We've got it. And we give you more football than anybody else. I'm just going to quickly give you what I think about that game. I've been tipping my hand all week. I think Alabama's going to win the game. I really do. I think that they are the better football team. And again, it's not anything that Tennessee can and has done wrong. It's that Alabama is just that good. Best team in the nation. Been saying it all week, and it's not really close. And every time I watch another Alabama win, I find it hard to believe that anybody's going to beat them this season. I really do. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch. I'll see you in 72 hours, but don't you go anywhere.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd, right here.